one of those things that it was at a time when everybody was coupled. You didn't dance by yourself. I mean, you didn't have a couple to dance, somebody to dance with. That was tough. You weren't going to be dancing. And that was right after the war, and a lot of women would dance together because there was no men to dance with until the men came back from the service. And we're in this little tiny town in Southern California. And every time the band would start playing, we had this wonderful band in the Grange Hall. This gentleman would come in from the reservation, and he would just dance. I've never seen anybody dance like this man, all by himself. Well, everyone was like, oh, he's dancing by himself. And they called him Injun Joe because he was off the reservation. And it took me until the 50s to realize what a slam that was. Nobody knew his name. Nobody asked this man, what's your name?
Wow.
They just gave him this stereotypical, prejudiced, bigoted slam that they called him. And nobody talked to him. But he didn't let it bother him. He came and danced. And it was that dancing that was so amazing. And I can remember him. And I very consciously let go of that difficult title in my head. And I just remember the man who danced for God is what I called him as I got older, because that was obvious what he was doing. So think about that. Many of you came from an era where it was okay to call people some negative name without finding out truly what their name was. And so think about that. That when you see people doing that, it's just they haven't learned anything different. So remind them, oh, that person has a name, and this is what it is. And that name isn't boy. And that name isn't, and I grew up with all of these names. You know, I said to somebody, yeah, they used to call him a Mick. And they go, what's that? How many of you have ever heard that?
Oh, yeah.
Or a Dago. Or,
yeah. I've been called Mick,
yeah. And there's all of these horrible names that used to be what you called people without ever asking them their names. So know that we've moved beyond that, my people. I'm so excited. Now, speaking about moving beyond something, we have a wonderful speaker today. And she has taken so many things that she learned from her past and has put them together to come talk to us. Joyce Brown is one of these people that I was looking at pictures that we had taken. How long ago was that?
1985.
1985. Yes. Joyce and Patty, I mean, we've known each other, we go back. The only problem with going back is he knew everything about you. And sometimes you kind of hesitated to admit to some of those things. But luckily with Joyce and with Patty, all the things we know about them are good. We've heard Joyce speak when she was teaching. We've heard her poetry. We've heard her channel. We've heard her. She's a wonderful, wonderful psychic. She comes from over the hill. She was driving this way from Santa Cruz as everybody from San Jose was going that way. And we are so glad to have our wonderful Joyce Brown here today. And I'm going to let her introduce what she's talking about. That's amazing. I usually, once I get up here, like to do all the talking. But please, Joyce, come on up and tell us what's going on. And,
okay.
All right. Is it too cool in the room?
No.
Okay.
Don't listen, Janet.
I'm going to let you
We'll be getting a blanket for Janet.
Get that little blanket
Welcome. Thank you for making the trip. Okay?
Trip was fine.
And if you're cold, she's sitting right under the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
To everybody.
Everybody says,
We have those little wayward souls that pop in that y'all may not see them. We call them, some people call them those invisibles and no-see-ums.
no see 'em?
What the action is where everyone goes. There's something to think about. On the way over here this morning, we were listening to Vivaldi. Sometimes, actually I started the morning off listening to Cold Blood, and then some mellow jazz, and then we hit Vivaldi on the freeway. It seemed like a good mix.
Yes.
But what was so interesting is Patty was driving, incredible driver, and she says, "Oh," and I'm thinking, Patty is going at a good speed, and someone is coming up behind us going very, very fast. And this person is going to pass Patty on a lane that merges,
Oh, no.
right? So it becomes 2 lanes, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so Patty slows down, and this truck shoots past us.
Oh, no.
I look at her and I said, okay, but then I decided we should do the prayer. So we did the prayer. Amazing thing that happens when you reconnect to what is all around you. Nature, universe, sky, all life. You have a different awareness and a different peace. So you're not concerned anymore that someone is going to be driving as if they're the only one on the road. You are aware of them. So it's just one of those journeys. Was this morning. But when I was a little girl, it was a whole different journey. But sometimes it seems like it was just this morning. And it all depends on what it is that I am doing, thinking about, and remembering with a good feeling. Sometimes it's not such a good feeling. But when I think about my father, and he is very important in my life, Joseph, Joseph Levi Thomas Brown.
Oh, he wanted the whole name, huh?
Yeah, he'll be messing around with that. That he had a remarkable gift to bring you to a place to where you were okay. You didn't have to be fantastic or wonderful. There's too much emphasis, I think, on being fantastic and wonderful. Sometimes I just need to be okay. And when I am okay, I want to get out of bed, I want to go outside, I might even want to wash dishes.
Well, that is
That's okay. That's okay. You know what I'm talking? We won't even deal with the garbage. So, but he had a way of bringing you to a place that in the midst of amazing fear, that you would find peace. And that's what I'm about this morning. That's why the piece is called Lightning Bolt and a Churn. Growing up in Cahoma County, down in Mississippi, outside of Clarksdale, blues capital, right? Well, we had summer storms. That gives new meaning to summer storms. The day starts off like this, and within an hour you got a tornado.
Wow.
Maybe 30 minutes. Because you don't know it's coming. But our families, the adults, your parents, the animals, you always pay attention, they always knew something was coming. So when the dogs would go up on the porch, and the cow would try to find a place to go, and the chickens would go and hide, you knew something was coming that was greater than just rain. You knew. And when your parents would start looking to the sky, you knew something was coming. So the lightning bolt in the churn is about how my father took 4 frightened children and brought us to a place of the imagination that we forgot about the storm. We just simply forgot about the storm. But up until that moment, everything was shaking and rattling. It was black outside, rolling black clouds, pouring rain, and we had a tin roof. Go with that for a moment. It sounds as if you're inside the popcorn popper. Except for it's popping rocks. And there we are sitting there, and we're afraid. I know I'm afraid. The 3 younger ones are afraid. The older ones, they don't seem to have any fear. They're not acting like they're afraid, but I know they are. It's a storm coming that's really big. And then my father started to tell us a story about how he come to have a lightning bolt and that he had it in a churn. But before he did that, he decided to tell us a little something about lightning bolts and lightning fire and about the storms and what they do. One of the things that he said to me that still stays with me to this day, he said, you cannot put out a lightning fire with water because it's raining and the fire is burning. I wanted to know what would put it out because he had me right there. He said milk. I realized we were in deep trouble because we only had one cow. And I didn't think Lily had that much milk. Nice cow, but not that much milk. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you know, well, just imagine I'm a little southern girl thinking, huh? What? And I'm talking to him and I'm trying to understand what my dad is telling me. And then he proceeds to move from there because he's got all of our attention. We're no longer paying attention to the sounds outside. We're listening to him. We're listening to the voice of our daddy. And he proceeds to say, I'm going to go get the churn with the lightning bolt in it. Well, truly got me now. So he leaves the room. We're all sitting in what is the front room. In a country house, every room is used for something. Okay? This one was their bedroom. Had a big old bed in it made out of feathers. Had a wood and coal burning stove. Some chairs. We had glass pane windows. So we can see all the storm. We can see lightning dancing. The house is shaking. This is all going on. And yet it doesn't frighten us as much as it did before. So our father decides to get up and leave the room, which was a big thing for him to do, with us sitting there riveted. And he goes off and he comes back with the churn. My first thought was, I didn't know we had two churns. Because I was the one who churned the butter, so I only ever saw one. So he comes back with the churn and he rolls it, and there's this sound in there, like there's something inside it. And I wanted to know what it was. And he said it was a lightning bolt. And I said, sure enough. He said, yes, sure enough. And I said, can I see? And he said, no. I wanted to know why I couldn't see. I said, Daddy, why can't I see? He says, because if you open it and the lightning strikes it, it will explode and start a fire that you can only put out with milk. I was good with that. And he proceeded to tell us how he got the bolt. Big old oak tree was struck by lightning. All the community went down after the storm had passed, and he dug it out. He brought it home in a tin bucket, this lightning bolt. And then he kept it in the churn, because as long as it was in the churn, we were safe and lightning would not strike our house. And so at that moment, these four, the four of us, were very calm. I had no more fear, because I remember this very clearly. To this day, storms will definitely give me a moment to reflect. Anybody who's been with me 5 minutes will know, in a thunderstorm with lightning, I will turn off everything electric. I will not be on a computer. I will turn off the phone. I will unplug the toaster. This is serious. I am not sitting there listening with headsets on thinking this is cool. This is definitely not Southern stuff. Southerners knew to respect what could happen if the lightning hit. If it struck, that was the end of it. Didn't just hit cows and horses and trees. It hit houses and it hit people, and it burned down things. So I still have that respect. I am not afraid, but I am conscious. So what I learned from my father through this was the power of imagination. That's what this is all about. It was the power of imagination. My father was an amazing storyteller. He had a story for everything. If you saw a snake, he had a story. You were telling him about a dog, he had a story. He had a story just for the sake of a story. He could tell you about fishing like you've never heard before. And he could tell you about what it meant to stand up for your neighbors. He could tell you what it was like to feed somebody. He had a story. And so I used to listen. And my imagination, I believe, was fueled through my father, Joseph. And when he told that story about the lightning bolt and the churn, my imagination went into that churn. I was not outside. I was not. And I believe my 3 siblings were in that churn too. Because I can tell you to this day, all of us wanted to see that lightning. But we knew that to see it could mean that the house could be struck. And we didn't want to do that. And by having that lightning bolt, we were safe. See, my daddy was a real master, but he did. What is imagination? It's a creative force. See, imagination is nothing to take lightly. People take it lightly all the time. One of the biggest tools that we have for imagination is called movies and television. I happen to think books is my #1 favorite. Give me a good book and I cannot hear nothing.
Right.
Many a time Patty has tried to get my attention and I look at her like, what? And she says, you're reading. I said, Haven't heard a word she said. You know, and imagination as a creative force takes us from where we are to a whole new place if we allow it. The problem is we fight imagination because we have this incredible supposition that imagination cannot be something unless it's something someone has told us is what it is. But when you have a creative spirit of your own imagination, write it down, sing it, dance it, whatever you're going to do with it. Make that dress you never thought you'd ever make. Whatever your thing is, do it. I learned to write. I learned to talk. Some of you will be surprised to know that I went through life not talking till I was about 16.
Woo! Wow. Really?
See, you can't
Now
stop
I
me.
am
I'm in
lost
it.
time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Me and Aretha Franklin. I had a hookup with Aretha Franklin. When the song Respect came out, it gave me back my voice. Look at the imagination. Aretha Franklin is singing about respect. I decided to respect myself and speak. Because I didn't speak to my family because no one seemed to listen. All I ever heard is, girl, what's wrong with you? And I decided that wasn't anything wrong with me, but I was talking to those who could not hear me because of what I was saying. So whatever was going on in their imagination was going on. But it wasn't mine. Mine was inside. I felt good, I felt comfortable, and I felt safe in my world until respect. And I started talking, and then I still heard, girl, what's wrong with you? But I kept talking. The power of imagination, when you allow yourself to take it and create, it's when it becomes your gift. And let it create something that takes you from where you are to where you want to go. See, we can stay in the imagination and stay where we are. So basic is basic. My back is killing me. I got news for you. That's some serious affirmation and imagination you got going on.
That's right.
And so when your back decides that it must supposed to kill you and you can't get up, There are people who are now happy with this. See, I told you. On the other hand, if you say, I am fine, I am well, I am healthy, I am healing, I am loved, look at what your imagination is doing for you. Now, I can choose to be upset and sad and angry. As somebody said, I could choose to be an angry black woman. I've done that one. That one is just really stinks. I have chose to be indifferent. That don't work either. So I decided to be myself. What did I hear? What's wrong with you? I was amazed. It came back around again and I said, nothing. I'm just being myself. Oh. So when you take your tools and let them create for you, you get something that you forgot you have. That you are something really special. But you have to let you create. Imagination is the creator. Sit down and read someone else's book, and you must understand, you tap into their creative gift, and you are there from the first word to the last. Same thing with movies, same thing with a sunset, the rain, anything you enjoy. It's a beautiful creative experience. But the thing about imagination is it is not biased. You want pain, give you pain. It does. You want joy, give you joy. So you can't say, oh well, that's the way life is. No, that's the life you are creating through your imagination. So what I learned from my father was that, well, I learned that I was okay for number one, which was a really big important thing, because my father seems to have been the only one that could see that there was something about me that was not exactly like my other 9 siblings. And he talked to that part of me. He nurtured that part of me. And he was open to that part of me, asking him questions when no one else would ask him questions. He would sit there and say stuff about milk putting out lightning. I wanted to know stuff. You know? And he always had to come back. I always wanted to know about things. And he would tell me all he could tell me. My father had a saying, which I do believe ties into imagination. I would ask him something and he didn't have an answer right then. He would tell me he had to go zern it. And for those of you who don't know what a zern is, just put a d in front of it. You got to go discern it. My father only went to 2nd grade, 3rd grade, no, 2nd. He could sort of write his name, Joe. So when he went to zern something, I wanted to know who he was talking to. It was like, Daddy, who were you talking to? He said, well now. He wouldn't tell me. He had to keep that to himself. But 2 or 3 days later, he would answer my question. He would say, come walk with me, Joyce C. Now when Daddy called my name, both parts of it, I knew that was important. Otherwise, he teased me, never called my name. And I'd go for a walk with him and he'd bring his gun, just in case some rabbit had the nerve to jump up. Well, we're talking dinner. And then he would answer my question. He'll say, do you remember what you said to me day before yesterday? No, he would not say day before yesterday. He would say day before yesterday. And I'd say, yes, Daddy. He said, well now. Then he would answer my question. My imagination would take off. It was a beautiful experience. He would explain things to me that I doubt that anyone could explain to me this very day as to what he would explain to me about things I was experiencing. Why I was having certain kinds of dreams and nightmares, and why it was that I could see ghosts. because I really wanted to know about that, because they were busy.
Yeah.
And why it was that that witch would come and ride me in the night, I wanted to know what was going on. And my father explained that, but that's another story. Thank you. That's another story. No, it wasn't. It's just that it's an incredible story about how he explained to me what was happening to me. My imagination captured that. I could see this witch. I could see everything he explained to me. But this all started with the lightning bolt and the churn. Imagination is beautiful. You can use it to transform your life from one where you are full of fear to one to where you see that you have the opportunity to make changes. It is not always easy. It truly isn't. But it is with persistency. Just imagine for a moment that you are back down there in Cahoma County, Mississippi, and you've got 4 frightened children sitting in a house with no tornado shelter. And the lightning is dancing, the skies is black and rolling, and there's utter silence except for the rain and the storm. That's all you can hear. No one inside the house is talking except for Daddy. He's the only one talking. Everybody is quiet because we know that if it comes through, that could be that. All of us could be gone. So what does he do? He takes us from a storm to being curious and imaginative. And he holds us in his hands. And he loves us with these words. This is what imagination is love. If you can love you, you can imagine. We forget that we imagine our hurt, our rage, and our anger. But when we practice loving ourselves with our imagination, we're into a whole different world of existence. We become something that nobody can stop. We become that lightning fire. Nothing can put it out. And we're not going to tell anybody you have to throw milk on it. You see, you have your own fire. And nobody can put that fire out but you. I watched my father do the impossible every day. So I'm thinking of him, and I'm thinking he is the lightning bolt. And that he is inside of himself, which is like this churn, this crockery. And it's got a top on it that you screw it in tight to hold what's inside. But when he would open it, everything was amazing for me. I saw him respected when I never saw other black men respected. The men respected him of all races. The women respected him. The children respected him. I didn't see this with other men. They were called boy. Women were called gal, no matter what their names were. That's what I saw. And children, we didn't even have a name. But I never saw that with my father. Look what that did for me. That made me pay attention to him. Because I'm wondering, who is this man that he can have this kind of life in the midst of other people feeling so bad and suffering? I never heard him complain. Never. I never heard him badmouth anybody. I heard him stand up for people. I knew he would go and fight the Klan. I knew a lot of things because I listened. And he would tell me things. Joyce C., come walk with me. Thank you.